So thank you for joining us again on Soul to Soul podcast. I'm Carol Ann, and this is my daughter, Kaylie Marie. Today we are talking about misconceptions surrounding mediumship and different topics with that.
We're just going to see however it flows. But just getting into, because there are a lot of misconceptions with mediumship or what a medium is. And if you should, like we said, if you should see a medium and if you should...
When you should see a medium, that came up this week. A lot of people ask, like, they have a loved one that just passed away, maybe the same week or something, and there's this urgency to want to see a medium, and there's so much surrounding that. Some people say you wait 3 to 6 months. Some people say it's too soon, or what I have found in my journey with it is loved ones have connected immediately. And then there's sometimes it's like pulling teeth. And I think it's really dependent on the person that's coming to see the medium, where they're at in their healing surrounding all of it. And sometimes a connection to their loved one on the other side is exactly what they need, whether it's that day, the next day. And sometimes it can't happen because they may think they need it, but the energy is not flowing where, maybe there's other stuff that they need to kind of sort through first. So I always tell people, like, well, I can't make it up. So if there's no connection made, then the connection is not going to be made. It might be from a different loved one, but I really tell people just tune into what you're feeling and what you feel you need right now. So
I think that is such a good point to talk about, though, because it is a question that we get so often. But I do think, too, that's why some mediums probably say, like, to wait 3 to 6 months, just in case, there is some of those like emotions or grief in different ways that this person still has to work through in their own way. So they probably give that leeway just to kind of be safe for that reason, to make sure.
Feel
but
if
like
you
said,
explain it enough, and if you're open and share that, we can't just make it up. We're not going to say the person's here if they're not here, but just come for the healing.
Yeah.
Come for what's going on.
It's so true. Like, we literally, like, if it's not there, it's not there, and that's how that'll go. But I think, too, that's also when we recommend, like, if you did just lose a loved one and you feel like you need something, but you're not sure if it's a mediumship reading, I feel like that's even where we would recommend a Reiki energy healing session, because energy healings are just a really good space in general for you to connect back to your soul. Your higher self, it's just your connection to yourself, to get a feel for what your energy feels like and help you let go of everything else that's not your energy and everything that you are ready to let go of in that way. So when you are still going through, like, the grief or the loss of a loved one, Reiki is really healing to just help kind of ground some of those emotions. And connect you to yourself to figure out what you're needing to do next to move through this grief and stuff. So even if you are not super sure about, like, when you should get a mediumship reading, but you still feel like you're stuck in your grief or stuck in these emotions or just in this rut and you can't get out of it after a big event or, like, a loss, that's where something I feel like Reiki would
for sure
come in really well.
Because you're relaxed on the table. It's a safe place. And I always share, sometimes your loved one doesn't want to come through me as a medium, right after they pass. They might want to come directly to you. So like what you said, Reiki aids in moving those energies through and clearing, like, their auric field, where they can be open to, maybe a song on the radio when they leave their session or something like that. Because, maybe their loved one is like, no, I want to connect to them first, and then you could go see a medium. So it's all perfect how it unfolds and happens. But Again, we never know. We're just open to be the facilitator on the other side of it. So
yeah, no, I just go back to really saying, like, we can't make it up. So whatever comes is what comes. What doesn't come is what's happening, and we just have to surrender to it. And that's why, yeah, when it comes to you, and if you have this question for yourself, or whether or not what type of, appointment you're needing, it's really, we'll always bring it back to you, what your intentions are, what you're looking for. And when you tune into those thoughts or those ideas, that's what's going to help you find out what you're needing. So just some other misconceptions with mediumship. I think you had one that you wanted to talk about today. It's been coming up.
Yeah, it's been coming. So like miscarriages, I had a miscarriage myself many years ago, like 24 years ago. And I grieved. I, cried. I had my moment. But my mom had also had like 7 miscarriages. So she was like familiar with it.
Oh, wow.
And she would always tell me, everyone has a miscarriage. She kind of would talk about it like, I don't know, maybe more detached. Maybe that's it. Because for me, when I had my miscarriage, I don't remember how long I got pregnant after, but I grieved in the moment, but then I was able to let it go. Because I remember going to a healing church after my stroke, and this woman who had a miscarriage, and she couldn't get past it. She had so much grief surrounding this miscarriage, and who knows what went into it. But so I had a client who also had a few miscarriages, and long story short, in her reading session, her whole reading was her grandmother that came through with this information, but it was all about her miscarriages. Like, her grandma showed me a girl, and I saw her playing, and she gave me her name, which, I'm thinking, well, how is she, she probably didn't name her she had a miscarriage. I don't think she would have a name by now, but I said it anyway. Yeah. And my client was crying. That was her name. I'm like, oh my gosh. And then she brought up another miscarriage that she had, and the month he was she got pregnant in, or he would have been due, whatever it was, she knew, she connected to it. So I was able to see there was a few of them, and the whole reading was surrounding that. So I would say a misconception would be that that if it's coming up for you, and if it's part of what you work through within your own healing journey, it is honored, and spirit world it's part of it. So it's all comes back to one size doesn't fit all. We all go through different things within our own journey, and
that even reminds me a little bit of it's what her soul needed to hear, even if that's not what she consciously thought or knew that she needed to hear. And I think it's also interesting you said that it was the main person who was bringing this through was her grandmother, who had
all the babies with her. So so I was able to see the miscarriage as a little girl, long hair. So I'm everyone wants to know too, what goes on in spirit world.
Yeah, and do they grow up in the spirit world? Do we see them?
This is the way she was able to get across to me, to get across to my client. But the misconception, I think, would be, and that is almost like my miscarriage, almost well, that's just something that happens in your life once in a while, and now you're on to the next thing. That's kind of like how my mom kind of portrayed it to me. But I think because she had so many, and she had so many kids on top of that, where this could be someone's whole different, so they are still with us, even though they weren't born. So getting to the misconception, even though they weren't born in the physical world, or lived life, they were miscarried, they are still part of us. They're still part of our family. They're still pieces of our healing and our journey that are very important. So a misconception could be just because they're, miscarried, that they're not part of your life and you're crying still over this, or you're still having all this grief surrounding it when it is.
And in my just experience with mediumship and readings that come through, sometimes they do come through the age where they passed, but sometimes they'll come through and they'll show us them like older. If they've grown up in spirit, they would most likely let us know they've been in spirit for quite a while, and then they would come through older, the age that they would be right now. So it's just, it's really all different. There's the spirit world. There's no one way with how things work and how things go. It's different with every single reading. But that is something that we realize, is that with the spirit world, that if they were a part of your energy, your family, in any way, shape, or form, like we said, even like people that you weren't close with can come through during your mediumship reading. A grandmother that you never knew can come through, and it's because you're all connected by energy at the end of the day.
That's a good one.
On an energetic level.
You never knew, or loved ones you never knew, and they could be a big important guide for someone. And they're like, she always comes in during readings, or, I have my grandmother's necklace, but I never knew her, but that she's a big part of her life.
I have actually had like we'll say grandmother come through, just an example, but a loved one that came through that she wasn't close with, but the loved one was talking about my client's relationship with, say, their mother or one of their parents or someone close in their life that where stuff was going on and where stuff needed to be talked about. And so this grandmother that had no part of this actual physical relationship, but was able to bring through certain guidance and validation for my client to help her go through or heal this relationship with this loved one that was still here. So it all plays a specific part.
It's all connected, and us healing helps grandma heal. Like that's the thing when they all the concept or teaching of we're all one. We are all one, but there's so many parts, and this came up for me this week too, like different personalities and parts of ourselves, really. And I think that even when we look at it that way, like grandma is here because there is something that she's moving through, or maybe her just helping you move through it is helping her move through it. It's in the line of healing. It's in so that's cool.
Let's talk a little bit about what we think as mediums goes on in the spirit world all day, because people ask us, I think somebody asked us that too, like, what do they do all day? I think at one of our last galleries, they're like, are they just around? Are they just here? And I feel like it's a little bit of both, a little bit of yes and no. I explained during the end of that event that when we cross over, it's like, I think you always say, like, there isn't, or we don't believe there's a hell or there's a heaven, there's a hell on earth, or there's a heaven on earth, but it's all energy, so it's all around us. And so when we cross over and we're connecting to your loved ones on the other side, it's really just a way of saying we're connecting to a different level of energy. We're a different frequency that your loved ones are vibrating at, because they are. Everything is happening simultaneously around us. They're here. We just can't see them because they're vibrating at a different energetic level, a different frequency.
I think naturally your eyes are open to something new. So I always think that when you leave this frequency and you pass over, I always feel like you have a bigger view of what went on in the past, for sure. People call it a life review, what's going on now, whatever. I always think our eyes are open. Like they're like, okay, now we're open to it. But I do believe the personal journey that we all have that goes on lifetimes, I believe that it's where we are consciously, frequency-wise, to where how much we are in capable of seeing or going through. I don't think we just wake up necessarily, now we're like this professor. And I think we still learn. I think that has been shown to me through my own loved ones, but we still continue to learn and grow, but our eyes are open to a certain extent. We have a bigger view, but then we still have to work on that, I believe, energetically. So some will come through as a guide and help, the granddaughter who never met her because she has things to heal. So I think we always have opportunity in this lifetime, the afterlife, and there's always like these different points of opportunity, and we take it as far as we're willing to take it and our journey calls.
But I think this lifetime, like what your loved one lived through while they were still here, is something that is always with them, because that can even bring us into the topic of like reincarnation. Like what happens if they reincarnate? Do they just forget everything? And that just goes back to our belief with the spirit world. Like I said, it's a different level, a different frequency, and when we talk about how everything is connected and we're all connected by energy, the spirit world is a source of energy. It's source consciousness. So call it God, call it whoever you want, call it the universe. It's source. It's this source of energy. And when we connect to your loved ones, we're pulling them from that energy. And when they reincarnate, even if they're reincarnated into like parts of your loved one or a baby in the family or someone else, you could still pull from their energy or those parts of their soul,
their parts,
their experiences, because it's all energy. There's no boundaries in the spirit world. And this is just from our experiences and the ways that we, the readings that we've gone through and the things that we've learned working with spirit, is really just that it's just about tuning in to the energy of like who we want to connect to, but it's something that's always a part of them.
So I have a cute little story because I love when I connect it to a story. So my son Jimmy, James Edward is his name. So my brother passed away when I was 2.5, and his name was Edward James. And he had Down syndrome. So he had a simian crease. I don't know if you're familiar, but we all have like 2 lifelines or something on our palm. And the simian crease cuts your hand directly in half. And it's a characteristic of Down syndrome. So Jimmy is my second son. So Sean was my first son, and then Jimmy was my second son. And my mom would stare at him in awe, and she would say, he looks just like Eddie. And I saw it too. We pulled out the pictures and everything. And it was ironic that I named Jimmy after Eddie. So I named him James Edward after Edward James. And so I didn't name my first child after him. So once Jimmy was home from the hospital, I was going to his month checkup, and my mom said, Carol, ask the doctor about this. And she shows me Jimmy's hand, and he had a simian crease. And I'm like, well, what is that? She said, well, I just want to make sure he's developing, he might want to do some chromosome testing on him. So I was like, what? And I remember going to the library at the time because we didn't have it on our cell phones. So I went to the library to look it up. And what I found is you need to have 7 characteristics before you're considered Down syndrome. Simian crease is 1, protruding tongue, slanted eyes. So there's 7 main ones, and then so I brought him to the doctor, and and my mom didn't want to tell me. She found that out right away as soon as he was born, but she held it until I was going to the doctor because she didn't want to scare me. Yeah. So I went to the doctor, and the doctor said chromosome testing is very painful. He said he looks like he is developing just fine. We will continue to watch him, but yes, that's a simian crease. And so the point of the reincarnation, and I do believe Jimmy has a part of Eddie, for sure, reincarnated, you could say. He still has all his, this is where I learned about reincarnation. So once I saw that, I'm like, oh my God, he looks just like him. And Jimmy is just, he has so much wisdom. I know she always
The
likes
favorite.
No, they're all my favorite. But Jimmy is deep, deep wisdom, and just a beautiful soul, and he always was. So I can see that angelic presence, because Eddie was only, a baby when he passed away. And I saw it within Jimmy throughout the whole. So when Eddie passed away, that's when I started asking questions. So it was like, it's kind of like it comes full circle, but then Jimmy's also Jimmy, he has other things to do here. He has other things, but he has that part of Eddie with him. And
I think that's why we can only ever answer these questions to the best of our abilities from our experiences, because we're always learning something new from the spirit world and the way that things work. And so we are not going to sit here and tell you that we know how everything works and how it goes, and it's this way, and this way, and that's what you have to believe or listen to, because we're constantly learning our views of the spirit world and who we work with, and when we work with your loved ones and with mediumship, it's constantly changing, and we're always learning new things. But that is such a beautiful story of just how everything is connected, because we will still now get readings where Eddie will come through as a medium, even though he has this crazy connection with Jimmy. And all of that, Eddie is still able to come through in certain readings in certain ways to also let us know, he's still with us. So like I said, I feel like it just goes back to energy. Like if we can see this world from an energetic level, if we can see each other, our souls as energy, and know that there aren't any boundaries, so pieces of you can go here and pieces of you can go here. That's why I think we talked about like your loved ones can be in multiple places at one time. It's the same idea. It's like energy is always flowing and going wherever it needs to, and if we can just surrender to it and trust it, even if we don't fully understand it, I think it does make it a little bit easier to comprehend or just to take in, because it's like we just keep learning more of that. We keep seeing it with our own experiences like that.
And I think there's no like absolute with anything. Like that's why it's hard for me to like be solid. That's why I love that we teach from our experience. I think everybody does. But our experience is not like, there's not a label on it, you know? There's, if you have an openness to hearing it unfold and kind of like putting yourself, I want to get it tattooed. Everyone has a story, and it's so true. And everyone's story is so different. And there might be similarities that kind of go side by side, but then there's always like something different. So when you hold on to like someone else's story or experience in a way of absolute, then it kind of doesn't allow your story to unfold the way it needs to. Like I believe we all have these stories to help us, support us through our own, but then just knowing that, wow, that's really cool how, Eddie, like this came, through her son that way, and just be open to the signs if they happen to come to you that way, or, and see what else happens. But that's why I love that. I love storytelling.
I had somebody actually just leave a comment on one of my Facebook posts. I think I just shared a video about mediumship and just talking a little bit about it. And somebody commented that they've always been interested in mediumship, but they've always been told from other people that it was tapping into like dark energies, or that it's energy that you're supposed to leave alone. And she, in the comment, she said she never feels like she fully resonated with that either. But she just never found the right medium or knew, who to connect with or who to go to. So I want to talk a little bit about that, because It's another just little misconception with energy, and I feel like that goes into a little bit more fear-based.
I was just going to say there's fear or there's love. Like we hear this all the time too, but that's true. If you think about it, anything we think about, anything we talk about, anything experience, there is the energy of fear that's present or love. And when you make the choice to go into fear, because that's what it is. It's a choice connected to a belief system of fear or not. And so that's what you could do. But also, like what you just said, somebody told her, I forgot how you worded that, but that alone, like, there's no absolute. So somebody, I believe, really had a real experience with that. Maybe they were in a state of fear. Maybe more things came in their awareness, or whatever their story is, but we'd have to trace it back. But a lot of times we pick up, this is bad, this is good. And we don't even know where we even got that from. So
I think it's also seeing, though, too, if that's what you believe, like this is bad, so then any experience that like comes to you, like those are the only parts that you're going to be able to notice of the whole experience itself. They always say, like, everybody has different realities. That's why we can both look at the same situation and get two completely different things. And I feel like that's kind of what you're saying, whether it's like fear or love. But that is what it is. Like when we were little, we talked about this in the first podcast, when me and my sister would like see all the spirits or the faces on our ceiling.
Now, I was scared inside my head only because I just had the stroke. I started meditating. I was seeing colors, it was all beautiful. You guys weren't sleeping in your bed till I taught you about Archangel Michael, and then so everything was going good. And then you're seeing people. I was like, oh shit, I never actually seen someone on my ceiling. So then I got a little nervous, but I was able to hold that fear, like say, okay, you're here for a reason. Maybe this is not just everything unfolding for you. Maybe this is for your children too. So I had an openness surrounding the fear that I did have.
But that's the difference that makes, because if you would have like put that fear onto us in a way, or even if we were just able to feel your own anxiety or your fear with it, then it would have caused that anxiety within us and that fear within us, and we would be scared, and our faces would be under our blankets, and or we'd want to sleep in your bed. And
instead, I was curious because I did not have that experience. So like your client, that fear came from somewhere, but if she could just get curious and then have her own experience. So I was curious, and I was like, okay, maybe my kids are going to teach me something about these seeing spirits. I've heard people seeing spirits my whole life. I've never seen them in that sense. So I was curious and intrigued by it, and just open to someone else's experience. So
but I think that's what made the biggest difference in how we received the experience and where that took us even to now. And just going back to like, so the energy of like the fear or the love or the dark energy or the light.
But you could still have it. Like I said, I was still scared. I was like, oh shit, what are they seeing? So not to discard anything that's coming up for you, because it's there for a reason. And I know my fear was, from what I've been told, like same thing. Everyone hears there's dark energy, or that's the devil, that's the light, you can't do this, only at church you could do this, or I don't know, we hear all these things, the popular vote of what's right or wrong probably. But
no, and I think it's just going, like you said, going deeper into that and seeing where did that come from, where did that start with, and then figuring out if you resonate with that or not. And if you don't, then it's about getting curious and finding out what you do resonate with. Like the person who commented, where she said she doesn't even think that belief resonates with her. So then it's up to her to see or do whatever she feels pulled to do to figure out what does resonate with her. And if it does resonate, with you, or the fear or the energies, or it's a belief that you still have and you've had your own experiences with it that you don't want to let go of, there's nothing wrong with that either. It's about understanding that and then working with that too, and learning how to then only connect with the energies that you want to connect with, or finding the medium that connects to the same type of energy that you want to connect with. My only thing then would be to just make sure that it's serving you, to make sure that it's helping your soul, that it's helping you move forward.
I just had something pop in my head. I don't think we all like being told what to do. I think that could go for like, you're like, oh, she doesn't like being told what to do. I don't think any of us like being told that you have to do this, or you should go here, or you should. But a lot of our beliefs are what we were told.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like if we think of like, I don't want to be told, what I should wear or where I should go. So you don't want to be told who has control over your mind either, and what your beliefs are. So when certain beliefs pop up, if you could kind of keep that in mind, like, well, I don't want to be told what to believe. I want to explore what I want to see what I believe, or get curious about, what I'm interested in, or what experience I want to have. To our own experience, because we're all on our own journeys that are so beautiful and so unique, and so many.
And you just had an experience the other week where you were talking to somebody about, even like, because the other misconceptions are like the afterlife. There's so many different religions and belief systems, like we were just talking about, that people have, that again, they are, whether it's told, they're told this belief system, or they were taught it, or they grew up in this religion, and so that's all they've ever known. There are different versions of the afterlife, regarding whatever you believe in. But Carol just had an experience where she was talking to someone who was very religious, and they were just talking about, they literally said the words, we're saying the exact same thing. Yeah. And I think that's what we try to teach, because there can be times or certain teachings from certain people or religious figures that makes you feel like, one way is the only way. And there's nothing wrong with that, but there also, in my opinion, has to be this level of like openness to know you can be so strong in your belief, but also know and be open enough to know that nobody really knows. Is that bad to say?
No, I don't think that's bad to say. I think that is exactly it.
Yeah.
Like we are all creators, and we're all experiencing, like what you said. I think you said, look at a flower, it's a weed or it's a flower. Like we all look at things differently, and
just different, the different views on the afterlife, and how at the end of the day, and I feel like I've seen so many people talk about this, just that all religions are saying the exact same thing and using different words. It just even makes me a little sad to see the separation that gets caused by it sometimes, because if you are able to step into that observer role, or take a step back to see that they're all seeing or saying such similar things with different words, but most importantly, they're making people feel the same way, whether it's giving them motivation or allowing them to feel supported or loved. I think that is the most important part. I don't think it matters what you're calling it or what the specific beliefs are. I think it matters how what you believe in makes you feel. And if it makes you feel good and supported and motivated and helps you to live your life in a fulfilling way with the short amount of time that we have on this earth, then I think you should believe in that and do whatever you feel like you need to do. And so if people can come to the table with that level of openness for yourself and for everybody around you, I feel like it only helps that energy that we talked about. It helps us feel more connected with like everybody, the world around us.
So I was born and raised Catholic. My mom was as well. And I remember after my second brother, PJ, passed away, and we were in my pool and just talking, and I was talking about PJ and all this stuff, and she was just going on and on. She was having a real hard time with her faith, she said, with her beliefs surrounding the Catholic Church and certain things she was taught. She didn't go into a lot of it. She went into some of it. But I saw like the struggle was real for her. And I understand because I think I told you when I started meditating, there was a lot of fear-based teachings that I have even learned, even in the mediumship world, that I had to kind of be like, no, that was her belief. Like, that's not what's happening with me here. So working through that and helping my mom work through that. And I have a grandson that was just born last Sunday. And so the afterlife we're talking about. And I saw Kathy, my mom's name, Kathleen. I saw Kathy on a license plate twice that week. They brought Luca home on both my parents' birthday, July 30th. So that was a nice present. So my mom wouldn't miss anything. And she knows that I have been talking to her. Okay, what's going on? Do you have Luca? So she knows me. So she has went above and beyond this week, and definitely a big part of our family here. So many. I can't even now. Butterflies. She sends diamonds and butterflies. So there was a butterfly diamond hair clip I sent you in the morning. Like, where did this come from? Like diamonds and butterfly. And then that day I went to wherever I got pictures of everything. There was 2 butterfly diamond stickers on someone's car. I'm like, I've never seen butterflies and diamonds together, but my mom just wanted to step it up. Like, I'm here. And so she's here. There's important things going on in our family, and she wanted to be.
I was going to say, I feel like that goes back to what we talked about in the beginning of the podcast, just how we're always learning and growing with spirit, and how spirit is always connecting with us in different ways. And so like I feel like the diamond and the butterflies are 2 fairly new signs that we started connecting with. I don't even know. Do you remember how it came up?
Yes. I know. Because I'm always like wanting to trace it back. So Ronica, my friend Ronica, channeled my mom a few months back now, like three months back. And she said, your mom gave me a diamond, like you're her diamond girl and all this stuff. And then I heard all these diamond songs and everything. I found a diamond, like so many things surrounding diamond. And butterfly was recent, and my sister had a reading, and a butterfly came through, and my sister was like, well, close, she sends hummingbirds, but not butterflies. And I'm at an event at the time. I was at a weekend event with their logo is butterflies everywhere. And I just asked her before she went in the reading, I said, Ma, can you tell her something for me, please? I need something. So anyway, she connected that to me. And my sister's like, yeah, I'm still not buying it. And ever since then, butterflies have been crazy for my sister too.
Yeah.
So it is a fairly new sign, and she's showing off by putting the diamonds in the butterfly, but that is what my family likes to do on the other side. So they take it and definitely run with it. I was going to say something about what she did. Oh, also, we had a terrible loss in the family as well. My aunt Angela passed away. So that was on the 29th, because the baby was born the 28th. I'm trying to think, or was it the 27th? But it was during the day. It was around 1:30, and I picked up the phone to call my mom. So she was around for my aunt, for my grandson who was about to be born. There was, a lot going on as always. And I went to pick up the phone to call her, which I hadn't done in years. So it's always crazy to me that your mind still wants to do that. And a lot of people chalk it up as that, oh, my mom, I miss my mom, whatever. But a couple hours later, my cousin sent a text out that my aunt passed away, and I knew